Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. And I really like the intimate setting. I'm sorry for the people in Zoom, but I'm going to use a lot of volunteers. It's going to be very interactive. I expect all of you as sales professionals to be super outgoing and lizrom, but if not, I will call out by specific people. So what I'm going to talk about today is how nice to have is impossible to sell. I don't think just because of the times. I think in general, it's just people are not buying products that are not essentials. But what are essentials product? Just a few words about myself. I'm the VP of Sales and Business Development in Zen City in the past 6 years. I'm moving on to my next challenge, and I'll share all about it on LinkedIn next week. I am a huge believer in value selling, which is what I'm going to talk about today. So in my demos, I don't really show a lot of features. I don't believe this is what creates the type of excitement you need to create in the first demo. And I'm the mother of Aviv, Herzl, and Malka. 2 of them are dogs, so you can imagine. So what's a nice to have? There is no really like a frame to what's nice to have. It really depends on time, norm, and message. I can't really change the times. I can't really change the norms, but I think that we as salespeople can definitely control the message. So how do we present our platforms in a way that makes the client says, I need to have it. I can't live one more day without it. This is the type of environment you need to create right now in order to make a sale. Now, I think that what makes the difference is much more us than, I'm sorry, I know there are great marketing and product professionals in this event, but I think really account executives and salespeople have everything to do with the fact that one product will be sold and another one wouldn't. And I'm going to show it with different examples, with kind of a system. I wanted 3 letters like everyone else. So I created POP with you, not POP test. And that is a framework that helps me really create a method of how you can take every product. We're going to show an example of that later. Literally anything, specific dog food brand, and make it a must-have. And the P stands for personal relationships, U for urgency, and the other P for project attachment. And I'm going to need 2 sets of volunteers and 1 person that will check the timing, and they will need to come to the stage. 1 volunteer, 1 volunteer. I need another 2. I'm going to randomly, ask you to come if you don't come willingly. Okay, someone else? Thank you. Someone has a stopper that can check the time. You will? Okay. Now we're going to play You're Together and You're Together. This is an association game, and this is a memory game. You can stand here. It's not your moment yet. So stand here. This is an association game, okay? You're starting to tell a story about anything in the world, what you had for breakfast, whatever. Every time he says a word that reminds you of something, you will share that reminds me of and take the conversation. So for example, I'm going to share, I had omelet today. Omelet is something you can relate to. So you say, no, milk. And then you say, okay, milk, that reminds me of, the first time I had milk. It doesn't need to be anything. It just needs the ping pong needs to happen, okay? You need to say as much as possible. We need 60 seconds for that. Or you can start. Look at each other. Don't look at me. Thank you. And let's try to get as much ping pong as possible. Go.
Yesterday, I went with my friends to the local wine bar. We had a glass of red wine.
Oh, wow, wine. That reminds me of the time that I went out with friends to a bar and I drank a little bit too much.
Oh, that reminds me of the time in Sylvester that me and my friends drank a little bit too much and collapsed the next day.
Right? It's like we celebrate every holiday, right? Like in Israel, it's like we
That reminds me of when we went to Hanukkah with my family and we had a delicious sufganiyah.
Sufganiyah, right? And this phone reminds me of how I tend to forget to turn it off. All right.
That reminds me of when I got a ping when Noah spoke and I had to turn it to silence mode.
The silence mode, right? Yeah, it's hard because she's so interactive. It's kind of a little distracting, right? Imagine being distracted.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I did a test in university and someone chewed gum next to me and I wanted to.
Oh, I hate it when that happens. What about the gum?
Thank you. Thank you, guys. So many associations. Thank you. You can sit now. But stay around because you will get a prize. Okay, now this is a different game. It's a memory game.
Oh, no.
You will start.
Okay.
And you will share a story, 1 minute long, about anything you want to talk about, really. Something that happened to you yesterday, like whatever you want to share. You need to remember it word to word, as much as possible, okay? And then in your minute, you will say, so what you said is, and you're going to share it as accurate as possible, okay? Okay.
Okay. Someone with the timer, can I start? Okay. So a couple of years ago, I was invited to the United States to host a workshop about Holocaust survivors and kids that make films about the stories of the Holocaust survivors. And I'm an animator, so I made a film about this lady. She's a Holocaust survivor, and it was a very moving film. We recorded her talking about her story, and we made an animation of what happened to her. And I'm telling you all this because we made this animation. It's a 5-minute film, and we submitted it to Cannes Film Festival, and it actually got accepted. But what happened was it got accepted in the year 2020. So I didn't get to screen the film or go to Cannes Festival. And then last year, I got a phone call from France saying, look, we're going to screen all of the films that were in the Corona and no one got to screen them. We're going to screen them this year. So last May, I flew to Cannes Film Festival and I managed to...
Time. Okay. Good luck. Now you're going, first of all, amazing, inspiring story. Best of luck. Usually people talk about literally what they had for breakfast, so amazing. And now you're going to start by, so what's your name?
Liran.
Liran, so what you said, and do your best.
That's harsh. A couple of years ago, I was invited to the United States of America to...
You weren't, she was.
Oh, okay. So Liran, a couple of years ago, she was invited to the US to create a film about a Holocaust survivor with some children. And they had great success. So they sent it over to Cannes in France and they got accepted in 2020. But unfortunately, since it's 2020, they didn't really get to go there. This is what I remember generally.
Fair enough. Okay.
Thank you.
You're released. So what these two games were here to show is what you should and should not do to build personal relationships. Now, I think a lot of account executives want, like we do, want to be the smartest people in the room. And every time something reminds you of something, a case study, an example, something you just thought about, you interrupt your prospect, you interrupt your client to tell them all about it. And you see it all the time. Now they think I have so much knowledge, oh, this person talked about how they were having hard time finishing the project. I'm going to tell them about my client that had hard time but people want to hear their own voice. People want to be heard. And that's why you need to listen. Now, you'll be surprised by how much business, and I have a few people here that can advocate for it, you can do by simply saying exactly what your prospect told you. So your prospect is telling you, I'm having really hard time meeting deadlines. So instead of saying, you know, I have other clients that, you know, were able to meet deadlines because of what about? So what you're saying is that you're having hard time meeting deadlines, and the other prospect, you're laughing now. Other prospect would say, yes, finally someone understands me. Not another salesperson trying to pitch me. They actually understand, you know, where do I hurt? And so what I'm saying is that, you know, while we're trying to show all this, you know, great knowledge we have, by keep interrupting our prospect by sharing all this amazing stuff that we know about them and that we know that we can do, does not build rapport in any way. The way to do it is by listening. And I'm sure that, you know, the people that repeat, you know, 1 minute of, that sounds like someone is actually listening to you, as opposed to keep interrupting you. And that's, you see all these measures in Gone, right? Patience. How much time do you take? You know, you wait until your customers have to stop for a break so you can interrupt them. It doesn't make the other person feels very listened to or very good. So throwing use cases at prospect is not listening. This is not how you create rapport. And the conversation should have structure, but still feel personal. What does that mean? It's okay. Like, you need to let them talk as much as possible. Obviously, at one point, you will want to take the conversation your way, but you can't do it in a structured way that will make the other person feel like you've done it 15 times that day. And by doing that, you need them to lead the pain points, the discovery, the questions. Any questions so far? Yes. So the question was, what about if you can't really use the data you got, the information you got from the prospect? It's really not something you can use to, if the client basically tells you this does not look like a must-have product at the beginning of a conversation, like, it's going to be uphill from there. Like, you shouldn't get to the situation in the first few minutes. In the first 30 minutes of every good demo, you need to basically just have a conversation about the issue that this persona has. Like, it doesn't even need to be you showing a product at this point. If you show the product and it's too early, it will look like nice to have in most cases. Now, this is a game that involves everyone. It has an amazing prize, so you should all participate. I will need 60 seconds as well. Now, this game is basically getting up and down from your chair as many times as possible in 60 seconds. It's a trust system. I can't really, you know, count for all of you, definitely not for the great people in Zoom. So I will need to just trust you to count for yourself, okay? The prize is amazing. You want to do it, life-changing. So are we ready? Everyone ready? As many times as possible. Let's start by, yeah, being up. That's a good place to start. Okay, so it's going to be 60 seconds and we'll start in 3, 2, 1, go. Come on, 1, 2. I hope people in Zoom participate as well. Everyone here is. I think people here reached 20 already. I see different methods, some more successful than others. 30 seconds. Come on, don't give up now. 15 seconds to go. 10 more seconds. You see people that gave up? It's okay. You can't all be winners. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time. Amazing. Amazing. The prize will be worth it for sure. Some people are stretching, good. Okay, now I'm going to really need you to be trustworthy on this, okay? Anyone here reached 10? 15? Raise your hand so I can see it. 20? 25? Okay, 35? Jesus. 50? 60? 70? 73? 75? Wait. 76? 70? 75. That's amazing. In 60 seconds. Now you're getting a Bulbasaur Pokemon. It's the best Pokemon, as everyone knows. Very much underrated. Now, how would we know, right? Okay, get his address and we'll send him a Bulbasaur as well. So what did we do here? Now I want to ask you, why did you do this? For the prize. Why did you do it? Fair enough. Why did you do it? To win. Okay. So basically, the second part of creating a must-have product is to create urgency around it, right? Now, what I tried to show here, that urgency is very easy to create. All of you came with your nice clothes this morning, and I told you, you're going to win an awesome prize by doing some, nonsense. And most of you, other than you, participated. And it was mostly, okay, maybe it's because of the prize, which will be, he's getting his whole seat now. It's an external motivation, right? I told you 60 seconds, 15 seconds, it drove you. But it was mostly, most people move because of the internal urgency of succeeding, winning, And internal urgency is always stronger than external urgency. And how does it work when we're selling a product? External urgency would be any end of quarter discounts, you need to do it now because of the pricing changes. I'm not saying it's not working, it's working. It's been working always, but it's not enough. Internal urgency, and this will connect to our third part, is much more about your internal timeline. What will happen if you don't do this in time to your prospect? So let's say, and I will share some Zen City examples because that's what I've been doing for the last years. What will happen if you don't use Zen City? Like what will happen to your job? What will happen to your residents? And that's the strongest urgency that would make someone actually move. And we'll show it with examples. But lastly, in order to wrap this, project attachment. So we have the personal relationship. The person trusts you. They believe you. They want to work with you. That's important. You have urgency. They want to do it now. But what do they want to do now? And that's the last part, which is project attachment. Project attachment means that you're not just selling a cool platform, right? Cool platforms are nice to have. You're selling a very, very specific solution to a very specific issues that the prospects are dealing with now. And that's part of the demo. That's part of understanding during the demo, what are they working on today? Now you need to have strategic and tactic project attachments. In general, you need to have more than one. One is very dangerous because if the project falls, you'll become irrelevant. A strategic is kind of more, larger than life goal. And tactic is something that hopefully will happen next month or next quarter that you can relate your product to. You need both in this case. Now I'm going to share, just to bring it to light, a few examples about Zen City. So Zen City, if anyone doesn't know, it's a government solution platform, which means that we're selling to cities around the world, mostly in the US, with over 300 at this point, Los Angeles, Houston, Austin, to the top level decision makers, which is part of this approach of making something a must-have. You're speaking with the CEOs, not with one of the users. And what we're doing is we're analyzing social media to give them real-time insights of the feedback of the residents. So basically kind of a much smarter way than surveys, than the few people that show up to council meetings. So the leaders of the cities really understand what you think as the residents of Tel Aviv, and, you know, and not based it on very, very fragmented data. Now, do you think Zen City is a nice to have or a must have product? Why? They said must have. Why? But city's been operating for, I don't know, thousands of years without this information. So there is depends on the elections. Will I be elected? So it really, really depends, again, on the message. And at the beginning, we didn't use messages that were strong enough and were essential enough. And we often got this feedback, you know, this is a nice to have, maybe not in these words, sometimes in these words, and we'll put it in next year's budget. No urgency, no need to move now. Cities are, you know, can be very slow moving creatures. And these are some of the nice to have messages that we had on our website. Now, if you look at this, digital media analysis, real-time engagement, data-driven decisions, how many of your platform this describes? I think this describes my vacuum cleaner. It doesn't make you feel anything. It doesn't relate to your own life. It just explains features and products. And it's just not something that someone would have urgency to solve or any type of project attachment. I don't know a CEO that, you know, digital media analysis is something that he has to do yesterday. But when we took the messages to a different place, right? What about hearing the real voice of your community? What about listening to marginalized communities? What about making inclusive decisions? These are messages that resonate much more. And obviously we took it to the next level, but really relating to the specific projects about how would you be able to decide about legalization of cannabis without knowing what your real community is saying? This will backlash you. What will the council members, which are the city's boards, say if you make the wrong decision? How much it will cost you in your elections? And that became a very strong message, and that was able to, our sales cycles were less than 3 months, which is extremely fast in government. And we're able to grow to over 10 million ARR in a few years in those, exactly using this message of, and every conversation we had sounded a bit different because it was always concentrated on the pain points that the actual prospect said. So I spoke with the city in Minnesota. They really want to know what residents feel about backyard chickens. Okay, that's what they need to do. That's what's going to vote on next Wednesday. So it's not too small, right? In California, it's about homelessness shelters. The city is basically breaking up, you know, breaking apart. So it's really to make it about them. Sorry. To refine the message. So the way to refine the message is to, yeah, so the question here was, how did we evolve the message from a nice to have, so all this discussion about technology, and then must have. So it was a lot of intuition about what make people feel something. And people feel something when they're talking about themselves. And it's not about selling your features and product. It's about selling the solution, which I know sounds very generic, but it's true. And at the moment, we started sounding like city managers, and we knew issues of city managers. And we took it to a much more emotional place of, we want to help you do your job and do it right. And we'll talk about it. It can be implemented on any product. If we could do it on social media for local government, it can be done in other places as well. Now, just a few more examples. Probiotics for babies. Is this a nice to have or a must have? Why? Wait, someone that think it's a nice to have. Okay, why? Okay, so I grew up without this. The doctor never told me to use it. Yes. It's nice to have comfort. You have babies. So what I think about probiotics for babies as a mother of a baby is that it really depends on the message, like everything, right? It can be a nice to have, slightly better than doing nothing, improves baby stomach pains by probably almost nothing. And, it doesn't hurt to try, right? Like no one says, shouldn't do it. I don't think it hurts. But it could be a really must have. This is my baby Aviv, right? Don't you want the best for your kids? Is comfort really a nice to have thing? If you can gain more sleep by your baby not being gassy, or reduces the cry, which is the worst, for parents. So probiotics for babies is just like any other product. It can be a nice to have or a must have based on the message, based on the pain point, based on what your prospect feels. So just to summarize the PUP, personal relationship, urgency, and project detachment. And I would love some volunteers to finish this off by sharing about your products you're selling and kind of the different ways you're doing it. But the personal relationship is relying only on the person's problems and not coming in advance and knowing exactly what you're going to say throughout the demo. Urgency and project attachment come together, and that's what we're going to practice, is about how to make sure there is a very specific project pain point you're solving that in timeline is coming up soon. Otherwise, you're going to stay on the strategic framework. So anyone here is willing to share about the product they're selling? Yes. Stage? Come to the stage. And I will need someone who will bet. Are you betting it's a must have or a nice to have?
Oh, I'm a new. So in the product. So let's make it a must.
Must, okay.
Yeah.
Anyone here will be the devil's advocate?
Nobody wants to be the devil. Okay.
She will not take. She doesn't believe in probiotics for babies.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Exactly. So come to the stage as well. So share a bit about the product you're selling and why do you think it's a must-have, and try to share specific projects and timelines for that.
Oh, that's hard. Okay. So we are OpenLM. It's a software license manager of softwares, and why it's must to have. So first, when you're buying a lot of softwares and you have a lot of subscription, you don't really know if the users are actually using this specific software. Let's say you have a manufacturing of a car, let's say Toyota Corolla. So you're creating this car and you're using CAD, if you know softwares, and you don't really know if the engineers are using it, and you want to know the actual usage. So our software is monitoring the actual usage of each user. And why you should want to know the actual usage is because it's saving you money. After analyzing, let's say 3 months, you should know who is using and how to reduce the amount of subscription of each month. It's hard to me.
So
I'm
what's
excited?
So what's the project attachment? What's the
Mm.
strategic one and the tactic one that you can imagine?
I'm talking with the customer about his pain. Like, you're paying a lot of money for subscription.
That you're not really using?
Yeah, exactly. And also there's a lot of features, but we'll stop and explain
Okay.
more specific this one.
So why do you think it's nice to have?
Because it's responsibility of the employee to know what he's using and what it's not in order to cancel it. I mean, it's a real case in my company. We know what we are using. In case of not, we are canceling.
Yeah, but how long you're using the specific software? Like, it's 10 minutes, it's 1 hour, and maybe not everybody needs to use this specific software.
Because no one is using everything that I'm using. I have my solutions, and they have their solutions, and everyone should be
So let's
involved
say
in the solution. And we have like a meetings in the week that we are talking about the solutions that we are using, if it's working or not. So the manager task, one of them, it's to know what we are doing with this money of this solution. So why to pay for another solution that maybe also someone maybe will not use.
Okay, so we have a feature that's called harvesting, that it's a pool of license. And let's say you have in your company, let's say a specific software, you have 100 users, but not everybody is using it in the same time. Okay, so the pool of harvesting says that reduce the amount of 100 users to, let's say, 80 users. And then he will, when you want to enter the software, they will pick a they will pick the subscription and you can use it. But sometimes, like, you're opening the software and you're not actually use it, and then let's say you went to a lunch. And
so what you see here is that you got technical with her, right? Because she gave you a lot of objections about, whether you even need this. Now, what I see as the real project attachment here, and it depends whether she's a user or a manager, right? If she's a manager, you said the employees know what they're using.
But they don't really use it all the time.
But do they really? It really depends also on the trust, right? So how much time and money are you wasting today because someone subscribed to something he's using once a month? They can all use the same user and whatnot. So I would say that the short-term urgency is because, now everyone is cutting money now. Everyone is trying to be more efficient now. When is your next meeting with the CFO? Do you want to show them that you saved 3x than what you plan to save just by, and the strategic one is obviously understanding that, we're entering an era where you probably have a lot of users, you're not really using, a lot of layoffs, and no one kind of saw how many users. So that's what you kind of need to you can implement in your way. So not to try to fight with her about features and users, because you can't win these fights. It's like politics.
And we have facts that
politics also have facts.
50%.
But you need to touch a kind of more emotional nerve about, the interaction this manager will have with his CFO, which are always a pleasure, Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wants to try? Okay. So you can ping pong. You can pitch us show us what you're doing and if it's a must have or a nice to have in your perception right now.
Okay. Hey, So my name is Amit. I'm the first employee of Asterix Security, and we're creating a revolutionary new security product that defends against supply chain attacks in app-to-app connectivity. And I'll try to explain that more simply. So every medium, even small companies, but definitely large ones, have many SaaS products. You can think of Gmail, probably Slack, right? Salesforce, Snowflake, many others. And maybe, and definitely the security guys in your companies thought for themselves, who in the world has access to our precious data on these platforms, right? So the basic answer is our users, right? You, the employees. And we have a lot of tools to govern that, to make sure that if an employee leaves the company, he doesn't have access to sensitive customer data anymore. But what about all the integrations that these users introduce? So for example, in Gmail, maybe many of you have WordTune or Grammarly or some other integrations. Maybe you have Gong, right? That listens to all your customer calls. So not really, because Panaraise doesn't. Yeah. So your answer is not real. I guess so. Okay, so he asked, doesn't Panaraise do that? And my initial answer is no, Panaraise doesn't do that. Okay, so in a minute, maybe tell me why it's not so good. But what Asterix does is it automatically shows you all of these connections, which is something that you definitely are not able to do without us. We see that every organization or the median organization has at least 10 times more non-human entities or integrations connected to their sensitive data, which is something 100% of the organizations are unaware of, because definitely the major part of integrations are done by end users in the organizations without approvals of GRC or compliance and legal, so they're not aware of it.
My question is, who are you selling this to in terms of the persona?
So I'm selling this to the CISO, probably.
To the CISO.
Yeah, and the thing that makes this urgent is that we see that attackers understand this phenomena, and they find that it's much more easy to hack subsidiaries and third parties instead of hacking the main platforms, right? So if I'm an attacker and I want to get all your Slack messages between your employees to find something to leak, or all your emails, then it's very hard to hack Google, but it might be much easier to hack WordTune or Gong or any other of these integrations. And we actually see these attacks are happening very much as we speak. And even this morning, we've had an incident in Circle CI, which is an integration that connects to your code. So every time this happens, tens of thousands of companies are being hacked. Many of them don't even know that. They're not aware that their customers' sensitive data is being leaked, and we help them with that.
But this is generally true to every company and to the CISO you're speaking with right now.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it about me as the CISO of Zen City?
Yeah, I think just you can divide generally security people to ones that are proactive. They're looking for new solutions to defend them from the next attack, and ones that are reactive. And you see that reactive CISO specifically, it's very interesting because they're many times they have legal responsibility if a hacking happens. So for example, there's been a major hack to Uber, and the CISO is actually being prosecuted against it. So being proactive as a CISO, always looking for ways to prevent the next attack and not only respond to it is very important, specifically for
But I
CISOs.
think this is a very general thing to say, because I guess no CISO see themselves as reactive, at least they won't admit it.
Yeah.
And no one wants to be legally charged with anything. What I try to share here is that you wouldn't know the project detachment if you don't ask, the CISO, about something more specific? Are you doing a very like big integration soon? Do you know about, products your customer, your employees started using? Is there a big test soon? I don't know a lot about security, but there are different tasks they need to do every once in a while, right?
So I guess the questions I usually tend to ask are ones that elevate the fact that most or even all CISOs, they don't actually know all of the integrations they have, because as I said, there are usually like 10x more integrations than employees, and they have no visibility to it without Asterix. So if I say very simple questions like, do you know all of the third-party companies that have access to your company's emails or your client data on Salesforce or something like that, then the answer must be no, right? And that generates sort of an uncomfortable feeling.
Fear.
Yeah, that generates fear.
But what about like a compelling event? Like, what about, is anything happening with this CISO guy in the next 6 months? Is he going to need to report something to his CEO? Is there, because that's what I'm trying to to share here, that you always want to connect it, not just to the general mission. And fear is okay, but it's also a bit, it can be captured as bullying, like people not necessarily want to buy from people that scare them or, make them feel about the guy in Uber that is going to be charged. And it's more about what is the next meeting I have with my CEO where I'm going to share my work.
Okay. So maybe
it's much more personal. That's what I'm trying to say. A CISO is a person, right?
Yeah.
And they have their own ambitions and goals. And you need to help them become the hero.
So what if I tell you that most companies see after they connect to Asterix that around 30% of their integrations are redundant and they don't really need them? They're like employees that tried them, played with them, and then stopped using it, but kept the access active. That's very common.
Sounds like the last company.
Yeah, in ways, but it's not, our pitch is not towards spending, but towards security. So these companies still have access to your data. If they're being hacked, then you're still being hacked. So many CISOs, a short time after integrating with Asterix, they can remove about 30% of the non-human entities that have access to their sensitive data. And that's a big point
Win.
to bring. Yeah, that's a big win to security.
That's something they can be proud
Yep.
that they did.
Mhm.
So it's like positive feelings and not just fear.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Let us know how it worked.
Sure.
So hi everybody. Just to give you a quick background, we are Sidelines and we're selling a tool. We're an affiliate company in the US sports betting industry, and we're sending a retention tool to the sports books. Okay, so the tool is an app that engages the user to easily build a bet and place it on the affiliate site. And the reason I believe it really is a must-have, first of all, we have a very big user base. As an affiliate company, this is what we do. We create a user base, and not only do we create a user base, we have the competition's user base because we're affiliated to all the sports books. Second of all, we are UX driven, and not as a buzzword. We don't have any KYC, or we have much less regulation restrictions that the regulator puts. In the US, we can actually put our time and resources into the experience to create higher engagement. And the third thing is that it enables us to communicate to the user. We don't need to, we're not in the business of detecting the fraud because we do not handle the money. We do not handle the process for the operator. We can actually bring the messages that people ask about. We have conversations with them, with the users. And those are all areas which the sportsbook is not able to reach. and to put on their roadmap and put resources to right now, mostly due to regulation.
So who are you selling to?
I'm selling to the sportsbook,
To the sport?
to the company that takes the bets.
Okay. And who is the person? Yeah. Well, so what he said is that, wait, I'll share with the good people at home. So what he said is that he very much described, like technically maybe UX, why you're not doing security
Yeah.
service, and not really the like bottom line of, you know. Yeah. Whose life are you going to make easier? I think we're all confused.
So I'm going to make the sportsbook's life easier. Okay, I'm not talking about the user right now. That's a different pitch. That's a different job. The user, it takes a little bit of background, obviously, but the user is not our paying customer. And that's why I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to the operator. And the thing that I do offer them, which is I think the must-have, is first of all, how to build the user base. It's a complicated industry. It's very expensive, very competitive. And when I offer the competition's user base, it is something that is a must-have, because it's an industry that fights for market share. It's very non-profitable. It's too expensive, and that's a big problem for them. Second, the thing that they do spend their resources on are new markets opening up, or new regulations that appear every day. And the fact that I can offer focus on the tool itself, and obviously I won't describe exactly the app here, right? But the fact that I can put my resources and time to the tool and to communicate with users, it's a big, it's something that is missing. I would ask, for example, if you guys are the sportsbook, I would ask you, do you know what is the conversion rate? Oh, sorry.
You're selling to an operator.
Yeah.
You're selling to the customer acquisition manager. Not to the, you're selling to DraftKings,
Yeah.
FanDuel, or Entain, or GBC. You're selling to the customer, and it is a problem. But you need to know who you're speaking to.
So that's a great comment, but I am not selling to that.
I have no idea
Yeah.
what he said. A lot of things about the sports world, I think.
The cost, that's why you go for it.
Basically, is that he's
So,
saying that
yeah.
the customer, the end user itself, may be a bit different than what was described, not necessarily the
So yeah, so I'm sorry. The question or the comment was that when selling to an operator, you sell to the customer acquisition team. So I'm actually aiming at someone else. We already work with we're not a new company. Okay, we're 5 years in the business. Since the business began, it's very new. Not the company, the business itself, the sports betting industry is new. And we know the customer acquisition. That gives us the base to understand the need and the urgency in acquisition costs. But what, again, I'm going back to the beginning, I'm not selling the acquisition, I'm selling a retention tool. And that's why I'm aiming at business development teams, at strategic partnerships team. I'm aiming at something deeper. I'm aiming for the next step, because the customer acquisition will decline at some point. It already is. It's yeah, probably it depends again at the hierarchy. It could be the CRO, it could be the CMO. It depends on the company and how it's built, but those are the teams.
My question is, what's the like tactic project attachment? Because the strategic one, okay, you want to.
Yeah.
What's the tactic one? When you're on a call, how do you drive urgency to do this now?
Well, the first thing is we're looking for one design partner. There are tons of competitors in this industry, and we're looking for the one leading design partner that will go with us.
That's an external motivation. That's putting them in competition against their
It is. We're an
competitors.
affiliate company. They
Yeah.
are in competition.
Yeah.
Second of all,
What's the internal urgency?
the internal urgency is the fact that, well, I would ask you, is retention on your roadmap right now as a company? On the
Of course,
product?
also make the world a better place.
So it's not that obvious in this industry, because this industry is mostly focused on KYC and on regulation and new markets and promotions.
But let's say I am. Why now? Why not next year in the next budget cycle?
Because budgets are only declining. You'll get better terms now with us. We're
External,
no.
end of quarter.
Okay. I appreciate it. Okay. It might be external because you get it cheap, you get it first, and you get it for the long run if you join now.
You need to connect it with the person speaking with you and something that is going to happen to them soon. I don't know if what happened to them soon is that there is a huge Super Bowl. Thank you. A game with the ball that has a lot of viewers and a lot of money on the stakes. And this is happening in 3 months. And there is a huge opportunity to gain tons of users. This is your internal urgency. That's what makes people buy now and not next year. You need to get specific. You need a project attachment. What's the next big sporting event?
Super Bowl, NBA playoffs. The next, actually, the next 5 months are the months to make a big profit. After that, there are 6 months of basically nothing.
Okay, so that's a huge urgency because it's now, this is the time, right? Yeah. Are you using it in your pitch?
Yeah.
The Super Bowl is coming. This is one of the biggest opportunities.
Yeah.
If you don't do it now. So my question here, we need to wrap it for a few questions after, is that if the event is actually soon, 5 months, 6 months, they're probably already prepared for it. I'll beg you different that they're always last minute thing, and 5 months is not really last minute. And actually the urgency only can be created for something that you already prepare for and feel. Otherwise it feels too long off. And this is why my advice is always going top down. So yeah, the people in the acquisition team probably have their budget set, but the VP can always move budgets if he feels like this is going to be, and there is nothing better than having a specific project come in the next, depends on the cycle and then the ACV, but 5 months, 4 months, 2 months in advance, that you can, okay, so they understood the general value, but now it's showtime, and you can create your time framework and schedule, from the Super Bowl, and now it's a project you're doing together. Yeah, so I would advise, try to use very, very specific. It's okay to have a very general, compelling. If you want people to spend their money now, it needs to be about something real. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing. We have just few minutes I'll give you all prizes later. I have WhatsApp on. Any questions for me before we wrap this awesome session up? Yeah, POP. That's the framework we use to make everything a must-have. P stands for personal relationship, which personal relationship means getting the prospect to talk as much as possible in the first 30 minutes of the discussion, talking, as we discussed here, about their pain points, projects, who they're working with, who they're reporting to, what happens if they are not succeeding in this specific project, etc. U stands for urgency, which you need internal and external. External is end of quarter discounts, design partners, anything that makes them want to move forward, that you're putting pressure on them. Internal means the Super Bowl, something happening with them that happens in 3 months that they need to be prepared with, etc. And project attachment means that you understand how to implement the platform you're selling, and you need a strategic and a tactic one. Strategic is probably in the sports example, lowering, or in the cyber example, lowering the amount of attacks, and a more tactic one is showing that you blocked 5 attacks by the next board meeting. Otherwise, you're losing your, token of the one person that you were supposed to bring on. I don't know. But again, you won't know this stuff in advance. You know it only by the personal relationship and by talking 30 minutes with the person. You won't know these projects. You can't have a yes or no questions. You need them to talk for you to be able to relate it back with your product. We started asking, obviously, this is an entire different session, but like the way I structure demo, and you need to do a 60-second pitch at the beginning. Otherwise, you will talk about, you know, I don't know, chickens, right? So you need to speak about something. But then the floor is the customer's floor to talk with you about how they're hearing residents today. When do they not hear from resident? What is coming in the next council meeting? What would be the issue if the big project they're advocating for is not going to get as much participation as they thought? So as much information as possible. Any other question? Anyone from home? I don't. So he's saying when someone's scheduling a demo with you, they want you to present something to them, for sure. But you're presenting 5 to 7 minutes out of the 60 minutes. I'm not saying, you know, keep it completely vague. I'm just saying it needs to be about them and what you're presenting, by the way. So the structure I do is small talk, right? And then you do 60-second pitch to put them in the right framework. Then you do 25 minutes of discovery, questions, project attachment, talking about them. And then you show a demo of 5 to 7 minutes, only emphasizing the features and capabilities they discussed. You know, that could be a solution for, you're not closing a usual SaaS, you know, sell in one meeting. So you don't need to treat the one meeting as you need to, you know, to do everything. The more they will get to speak in the 1 minute meeting, you can always do a deep dive in the second, third call. Not everything is going to happen on the first call, and trying to squeeze it all, not going to lead to shorter sales cycles, going to lead to close lost. So just to put it in short, the process itself of buying or checking is a bit tedious, and it kind of, I guess, takes off the spark of the first demo that was amazing, because you're buried with, you know, kind of the technical things they need to do in order to close the deal. Did I get it right? So I think I have 2 solutions for that, because I think this is also a problem that sometimes we have as salespeople. We have amazing sales process, and then, you know, the client says, okay, yes, I want to move forward. And then we think we're done. We're done. We're good. It will happen. They said they will do it. They will come back next Tuesday. I don't trust that a single thing would happen without me being in the process. I just don't trust it, because they have other things to do. And I sell to people that have a lot of things to do, right? What I do is 2 things. First of all, you need to create a schedule. People like having timetables. They like to, okay, so the project is in 3 months. Okay, so in 2 weeks, we'll meet this person. In 1 month, we'll do this presentation. You need a lot of checkpoints to keep the deal alive. The second thing is that in every deal, you're starting, and at least half of the time, you're talking about the value. You need to keep them excited. Leads get cold so fast. And even if they loved your idea and it blew their mind 4 months ago, now after 4 months of talking with the bank, they don't even know if they need it anymore. What am I even doing, right? you need to have a lot of touch points, and you need in every touch point always be selling. You need to treat it like it's the first engagement, to remind them of the pain point, to ask them, how's it going? Oh, we're just 2 months away from the launch. Like, are we? So that's my tactical advice. Any last question? Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I hope this was helpful. And I hope you'll use the POP framework already today. And let me know. Connect with me in LinkedIn. Let me know if it worked for you. Happy to talk about this. Thank you very much.